Are you coming on the march? So I'm the tail ender. I'm always playing your music on my radio show. I love it, and it's one of our favourite. Totally Hammered is one of our most played CDs. I thought I'd chat with you and get you on the show at some point. I've got to keep up. I'll chat soon, okay? Thank you. Cheers! I'm the tail ender, so Kernow best vegan! Taking our time. I've got some more in my pocket of those posters if you run out. Right.
Chelsea to the front,
Dude!
You probably can't do it.
Chelsea to the front.
Okay, I'm up.
Thank you very much, Daddy.
Big enough, smart enough, rich enough, hard enough. I'm getting flagpole envy here. Yeah. Size does matter. Okay. Kernow, best vegan. We're approaching Truro Cathedral, where we will be having some speeches. That's Truro Cathedral, big churchy looking building. It's only about 120 years old, you know. That's what we're all about there. What we're all about. This is what we're all about, madam. There we go. Big enough, rich enough, smart enough, had enough.
We are big enough, we are rich enough,
We're all
and we have
about.
had enough.
Pulling down into it now, mate. Rob?
All under one banner, not just about us, but about one and all.
Right, just start to filling around here now, please, guys.
What we're about, madam?
No.
There's one of our heroes, Bob.
Good afternoon again, ladies and gentlemen. We're now just going to hear a few words from Gray Lightfoot until we continue on the march. Thank you. He is great.
It should be.
Hello there. Well, that's... Hi there, my name's Gray Lightfoot. I always do this. I always say, you can tell by the accent he's not from round here. But my father was from Liscard, and I've been living down here that long now that I think I'm entitled to proclaim from the steps of Truro Cathedral that AUOB Kernow.
Hooray!
If anybody pulls me up for pronunciation, this protest is not the pedants' revolt. Yeah, so, yeah, I've lived here long enough. One day I may get a passport. Right, so that's what we're here for today, to make a start towards the National Assembly for Cornwall, because Cornwall is a country. And
Hooray!
And here is the proof. It's just like Scotland, Ireland and Wales. By means of this poem, or it could be a sort of call and response pub quiz, I'm going to back up this statement with factual evidence. Country, not county. So if you feel like you want to play along, if you know some of the answers, I'm gonna... What's England in French? Angleterre, yeah. What's Scotland in French? L'Ecosse. What's Wales in French? The Pays de Galles. What's Ireland in French? Irlande. What's Cornwall in French? Cornwall. What's Devon in French? Well, you could say it with a French accent, like Devon. Devon. Yeah. So it makes you think, doesn't it? What's Cornwall in Spanish? Cornwallis. What's Devon in Spanish? Devon. What's Cornwall in Portuguese? Cornwall. What's Devon in Portuguese? What's Cornwall in Italian? Cornwall. What's Devon in Italian? Now, I don't want you to think I'm picking on Devon, because what's Cornwall in Swedish? Ah, there you see, it's Corniska. What's Yorkshire, England's largest county, in Swedish?
There we go.
Yorkshire. What's Cornwall in Icelandic? Cornbretterland. What's Lancashire in Icelandic? You're getting good at this. What's Cornwall in Polish? Cornwalia. What's the only way Essex is said in Polish? What's Cornwall in Latvian? Cornwall. What's Kent in Latvian? Kent. You're beginning to see a pattern. Just see if you're paying attention. What's Cornwall in Welsh? Can you? I think it is. What's Somerset in Welsh? No, it's not, you see. Because Wales have actually allocated a Welsh name to each English county.
Sir?
And Somerset is Gladia. I would pronounce that
Here we go.
The Cornish nation has, unlike any other English county, its own language, although it's not a county, as I just said, called Kernow. But it even has a name for Devon.
You're right, you got enough?
It's Dunans. Right, this next poem, 250 years ago, the poet Oliver Goldsmith witnessed the deserted villages caused by the Enclosure Act, which was the rich people claiming the land, forcing the poorer locals out. 250 years ago, that is still going on in Cornwall. I've been driving buses for 13 years and I've seen so many villages lose their amenities, pubs, post offices. There's a reason for this, I'm going to tell you about it. This is the deserted village, Cornwall 2020. As she gazes out from the Monday going on in Cornwall, there's little to warm her. Fixed in the amber light of an all-burned sky, she watches a magpie, a sole passerby. Her being flutters in the cobwebbed corner, the desiccated remains of village fauna, stuffed in a bell jar, relieved of her thunder. Skins of her past lives lay sloughed all around her. Each delicate feature, though Goldsmith fashioned, recalls the days when she was so impassioned. those halcyon times when first they arrived here, freshly retired but with intentions made clear. The village was perfect to start life anew. Plans made and submitted, put on public view.
Can you hear it okay?
Enclosure was needed, involvement was key. You stood for preservative with a big P. Back then, the power couple wired to the mains, charging yourself to be new blood in the veins, ousting the locals you sense lack your vision, their directly placed thinking earned your derision, pushing yourself till you stood at the vanguard, eager to be seen as setting the standard. You badge your best and excel at the nitpick and set about the task of preserving in aspic, taking on the council, builders and scoundrels against becquerels, church bells and cockerels, a twin tour de force with matching ambitions, tilting at windmills with rolled up petitions. Then when your John passed, you didn't stop the fight, took on night school classes, built a website, look through your window and see that it's merited the deserted village you've inherited. The post office gone without much palaver, Lazarus risen as funeral parlour. Now a chapel of rest for the village dead by the cast iron casket marked out in red. The inconvenience of losing the store for petitions and posters who could want more. Its closure for you has been a disaster. Handy for things you've forgotten at Asda. The Red Lion is now the Bengal Tiger. Real ale now replaced by Indian lager. No more Sunday roast or steak and kidney pod. Gone are the days when you could eat spicy food. The church now only active 1 week in 4. Society weddings now the only draw. The grave hopper squats by a lichen-kissed stone. The plots are untended. The mourners have flown. The empty mansions that were bought on a whim by flush city folk for a dodgy tax skim. The blind, soulless windows of all life bereft are cold comfort cancer, community theft. The old double-decker's engine and braking, ever the cause of you from slumber waking, no longer reverses in the village square. Now that you require it, it's no longer there. The expensive taxes you now have to get for doctors and nurses that have to be met. The ferryman to get you over the Styx comes with a number, 666. The lifeblood congealed now in varicose veins. The children are gone, but the school still remains, snapped up by men with ideas from afar, planning permission for a luxury spa. It's school, it's shop, it's pub, and it's life retreats until only ghosts walk about on the streets. Pavements mossed over, as there's no need to walk. Each pothole becomes home to a ragwort store. Now the only young folk you're likely to see turn up in dull cars armed with a passcode key. Watch their identity and names evanesce. The carers and cleaners who wipe up the mess. Where is the new blood, that vital transfusion? Applied tourniquet maintained the seclusion. Dialysis battled on a daily basis with all and anything to keep the stasis. Now you can't get the staff. They've all moved away. You can't because you didn't want them to stay. Those affordable homes you fought to repel because you thought they may house the ne'er-do-well. All this happened during your lifetime here. Now you rage inside like some helpless Queen Lear. What advice would you give to new arrivals with their airy dreams of village revivals? Enjoy the view, the peace and life idyllic, and embrace the chance to be altruistic? Think on this before you're well past your prime. Remember to move back to town in good time, where there's life, health and friendship all close at hand. Always a pasty in both pound and Iceland. Lest you end up rattling in your sealed up vault, your head full of doubt that it wasn't your fault. As your garden returns itself to the wild, the gardeners stop coming, it's not worth his while. Your life spent in 2 rooms to keep the bills low, the staircase redundant except for, you know. The deserted village is yours now to own. What point to a lock-in if you're all alone? Another day ends with its cloying curfew of amber light that closes all around you. In the distance, she can make out the village over the winter's stench of rotting tillage. No industry thrives, nor stirs any creature. the deep red post box is a constant feature. Thank you.
Just need to keep it a bit closer to your mouth.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, one more, do a short one.
Yeah, do another short one if that's all right.
Shorter one. Yeah, I get a bit sick of people posting on Twitter that the Cornish, and that's like myself, people who live in Cornwall, work in Cornwall, should stop moaning and be grateful for the money we get from tourism. And then I started to count up all the money I got from tourism and realised I hadn't any. This is having a go back at the English Twitter trolls. Yeah, sure. The grateful Cornish are few in number, my augmented guess a mere 10%. The ones who make money from tourists and keenly await your approaching descent. 5 million of you come to see us, making your annual trip-trap trolls over, not under the Tamar Bridge, and filling social media with crap. How about the Cornish should be grateful as we sit and wait for your arrival, like leprous beggars with our hands outstretched, keening for economic survival. So who is it that gets all your money? Clearly not the folk that you've envisaged, but supermarkets, big nationals and second homeowners, mostly from England. Oh. Hoteliers, campsites and restaurants, English heritage and the National Trust, hedge funds and the venture capitalists who profit from financial boom and bust. There's only 500,000 of us that live here. Most of us don't want to move. Wages below national average, yet house prices and rents are through the roof. Just as everywhere else on this island, 90% do the same jobs as you, like driving wagons, buses and taxis, Amazon, Yodel, Deliveroo. We stare bleary-eyed at computer screens, civil service and data collection. We police both the town and the country. Our kids sign up to fight insurrection. We heal the sick and then nurse them better. And we care for both the young and old. We place value on our opinions and raise our hackles whenever we're trolled. 90% of 500,000 won't benefit from a single penny. Yes, it's contrary to what you guys think, but it's true. Most of us won't see any. We just want to get on with our normal lives, just like everywhere else in this land. So don't mind when we get a bit ticked off when the situation gets out of hand, and think on not to take too many risks, zealously question that thrill-seeking hit. We've only got one major hospital. She's going to be struggling a bit. Those prices you pay that fill you with rage on the buses for coffee or ice cream are the same that we pay throughout the year. There's ever a cost to our Cornish dream. We work the land, picking fruit and flowers, risk our lives at sea to bring you your fish. We serve you beer, wine, cocktails and spirits and expertly cook your favourite dish. We tend the gardens, the parks and the greens, sweeping the streets to clear littering sins, doing our utmost to keep Kernow clean, recycle and beat the gulls to the bins. We teach at nursery, school and college. School mums and dads are made late for the bell. We're accountants, lawyers and journalists, musicians, artists, poets as well. We fix the electricity and gas and dig to keep utilities flowing. Just the same jobs as you. I hope by now you see where I'm going. We clean second homes and holiday let. We work in shops here to serve and assuage. But unless we actually own it, then all we'll get is the minimum wage. In your ubiquitous holiday let, when drink and drugs give your volume a lift, the person who's trying to sleep next door has an early morning hospital shift. It's like trying to work to get on with your work while sat in a child's jungle gym for hours, or hoping for an ordinary life in the queue for rides at Alton Towers. How welcoming do you think you would be if the world and his wife came to visit your town with enough room to spread the load, proper sized roads and a choice of exit? How much of our cash do you think you'd see to put up with such long-lasting hindrance? Would you bear the hardship with stoic grace or wave us off with a grim good riddance? We understand we're not as rich as you, and that it's crass and very unfunny to vaunt your money in a hardship zone. It's so last century, loans of money. You are so unlike our usual guests who come down here because they adore it, not grudgingly because they can't go abroad because of restrictions caused by COVID. But when it comes to Cornwall's GDP, tourism accounts for just 12%, because most of the money made down here goes back to England, and that's where it's spent. Now, hopefully you'll understand that we don't cash in on your holiday moolah. How about you give your keyboards a rest, and we can all cry out, hallelujah. So we'll do our best to be courteous. Now you know you won't get our gratitude. Best regards from us, the 90%, all hoping for a better attitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Greg. Cheers. Judy, thank you, mate. Right. Oh, shit. Sorry, Tony. Right. Ready to go again, mate?
Yeah, mate. Let's go.
Right. Right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll now carry on with our march up through Truro. People of Truro, we are here today, all under one banner, Kernow, to start the greater discussion about autonomy in Cornwall. We are rich enough, we are big enough, and we have had enough. Straight up, mate, up to Piedar Mews. Yeah. Kernow best Vicken!
Towards the old job centre and down into Lemon Street.
Yeah, that's it. When we get to that bit of the road, we need to keep on the pavement, but then filter out onto the road when we get into River Street. Ladies and gentlemen of Truro, we are from all under one banner, Kernow. We are marching today to start the greater discussion for having greater autonomy in Cornwall, having an assembly, so we take care of our own affairs. Watch your flags coming down through here, guys.
Isn't it? You can still extract this 26 million or whatever a year. Yeah. From being a Jew. Yeah, he can still do that.
It still actually exists.
Yeah. It still exists, but he just won't.
If you could just keep left for him. Brilliant.
Don't worry.
Brilliant. Thank you, guys.
Yeah, he did well. He did do it. Trying out that boy. We don't need to eat them.
narrowest one. Single part.
Sorry. Thank you.
Alright, so thank you.
Is that one of Peter's friends?
Hey?
I just heard someone shout, Peter! What are you doing? He said, dunno.
He ain't got a clue.
We just kidnapped him.
I just stuck a flag in his hand and
Yeah,
said,
we
come with
kidnapped
us.
him.
There we go, we can filter out
Everybody,
again.
come with us. I think if we all start doing that, James, grab somebody and kidnap them with us,
Yeah.
it's a good turnout.
Yeah.
All right, mate.
The old sort of displaced different opinion where people want to focus
Watch you don't go too far ahead,
Oh,
boys.
sorry, James. Sorry, mate.
Otherwise, everyone will start chasing up.
No
And
worries. Yeah, there's like causes quite a bit of discussion. Bit of division. Yeah, yeah.
everything all right back there, guys?
Fighting against the bloody
Awesome. We've got a car up here waiting, but he's waiting for us to go past.
really stood back. Like this, like you guys going down and reigniting old alliances.
Give them something to think about upstairs as well.
Yeah,
Because that's what they don't want. They don't want this marching together like this.
I hate it, yeah.
Is it?
Which is good.
I was saying to my partners, like, if I could bring them to get through, I'll really make an annual thing like that.
Christ, they're back at the tunnel where still Sarah is.
It's really tried to get us, you guys in Wrexham, but we just couldn't get it together.
It's difficult, like, with, like, it's in the way, basically.
Yeah.
You know, we've all got, like, jobs and stuff.
Awesome. We're just coming up to the road now, okay?
Kernow Riff!
Right guys, we're going to go shout in a minute. We're going to go, what do we want in assembly? When do we want it? Now. Okay? When we get down the road here, we'll start it then.
Yeah. I'm used to it. Still just learning it. It's really good first thing today. Yeah, so it's like 3,000 and then like 22,000.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are from all under one banner Kernow, marching today to start the discussion for greater autonomy in Cornwall. We are rich enough, we are big enough, and we have had enough.
Yeah, support your own government and your own education ministry. It's just more autonomy like you guys have.
We're going to slow right up by the museum here so we can say about the museum.
On your left-hand side here is the Royal Cornwall Museum, falling to another victim of money being taken out of Cornwall. We need to keep our culture within Cornwall, so we keep our museums and everything else. It is disgusting that money is getting taken away from such a place that has been here for many, many years. So, please lobby all your councillors, your MPs and everyone We need to keep the museum open. Kernow, there is a petition, so please sign it as it goes round.
I don't need the megaphone with your mouth.
Swallow like a foghorn. I'm a duck's got a job for you, Rob.
Canberra Reef! Kernow Reef!
That's why
Perfect, brilliant stuff, thanks, Sarah.
Guarantee I lost my voice from getting
Sorry?
Some mellows on it.
No, just keep going now. As long as we don't stop, we're fine.
Ladies and gentlemen of Truro, we are from all under one banner, Kernow. We are here to start the greater discussion of greater autonomy and have an assembly in Cornwall. We need to stop sending money to Westminster. We are big enough, we are rich enough, and we have had enough. What do we want? When do we want it? Now! What do we want? Assembly! When do we want it? Now!
Assembly.
Sorry, say again? That's right, we're going to be turning off in a second. They'll be fine. We're too narrow here now.
Ladies and gentlemen of Truro, we are from all under one banner, Kernow. We are here marching today so we start the greater discussion for autonomy in Cornwall. We are rich enough, we are big enough, and we have had enough. We don't need to be sending all our money to Westminster.
Yeah, we can't really keep left at the minute. We've got an island in the middle, so we can't do it yet. Right, just need to squeeze in to the left now here, boys.
Keep left, can we please rifle on?
That's okay, we've pulled in to the left. It's his choice if he wants to go around.
It's really nice tough.
Yeah.
The bus stops only just up there.
Yeah. Do you know what I mean? We're only stopping them for a few minutes. AJ, keep in. Keep in, AJ. Keep in.
Oggy, oggy, oggy! 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 Oggy, oggy, oggy! Kernow, best Vicken! Ladies and gentlemen of Truro, we're from all under one banner, Kernow. We're marching today so we start the discussion to have greater autonomy in Cornwall. So we have an assembly down here, like Wales, like Scotland. Stop sending our money to Westminster. We are big enough, we are rich enough, we have had enough.
They'll stop here in a minute anyway. Around at the key, mate. Right, keep to the left, guys.
tobacco pouch down, stop in there. Stay in, guys. Okay, let's go.
Right.
What do we want?
Assembly!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Assembly!
When do we want it?
Now!
Augie, augie, augie!
Hey! Hey! Hey!
Augie!
Hey!
Augie!
Hey!
Augie, augie, augie!
Hey! Hey! Hey!
Kernow, Bisficken!
To the right now, mate. Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen of Truro, we are here today marching to start the discussion so we have greater autonomy in Cornwall. We are big enough, we are rich enough, we've had enough. We can have an assembly like Wales, like Scotland, and take care of our own affairs. Stop sending our money to Westminster. Kernow, Bisficken! Right, can we keep to the left, please, guys?
Bus coming down. Rob, keep left.
Keep left, everyone, please. Keep left.
Oh, we're getting up,
We're just going to have to.
Ladies and gentlemen of Truro, we are from all under one banner, Kernow, marching today to start the discussion for greater autonomy in Kernow. We can have an assembly like Wales and Scotland and take care of our own affairs. We are big enough, we are rich enough, and we have had enough.
Sorry? Say again, Sarah?
What do we want?
Assembly!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Assembly!
When do we want it?
Now!
Rob, when we get onto Lemon Key, we're going to go right up the far end, up towards Primark, and then up on that left-hand side. Which way is he going? Alright, he'll have to wait for a minute. He's only going to be held up for 10 minutes.
Ladies and gentlemen of Truro, we are here today from all under one banner, Kernow. We're going to start the greater discussion for autonomy in Cornwall, so we take care of our own affairs. We can have an assembly like Wales and Scotland. We are big enough, we are rich enough, and we have had enough. Augie, augie, augie!
Hey! Hey! Hey!
Augie!
Hey!
Augie!
Hey!
Augie, augie, augie! Stay left, please, guys. Stay left. Stay left.
Yeah, straight across and then up, mate. Just ask them to move to the left. Rob, just ask those if they can move over a little bit. Do you mind just stepping to one side for us, please? Thank you, my love.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen of Truro, we are here from all under one banner Kernow. We're here to start the greater discussion for having an autonomy and assembly in Cornwall. We can have an assembly like Wales, like Scotland, and take care of our own affairs. We are big enough, we are rich enough, and we have had enough. Hoggy, hoggy, hoggy! 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 Hoggy, hoggy, hoggy! Kernow, best ficken!
Slow down a bit.
What we're all about. Hi, mate. Nice to see you. Yeah. Well, come along soon. It's a great thing. Okay, take care. Cheers now.
Kernow, best!
The weather's not as bad as we were worrying it was going to be. It's obviously this heat, but we're doing our best. I've got to catch up. Thanks very much. Thank you. What we're all about, man. Have a read.
What do we want?
Assembly!
When do we want it?
Now!
What do we want?
Assembly!
When do we want
All
it?
about have a read. Thank you.
Just want to thank the people of Truro today. If we've held you up in any way for putting up with us, it is important we start this discussion so that we can have these assembly in place so that we can start taking back control. Thank you very much for putting up with us. We're now going to gather for speeches. You're all welcome to join us so you can hear some speakers. Thank you.
Hello, James. Hello, James.
Well done, mate. That was brilliant, man. Well done.
Right.
It won't be the last.
Do you think you're going to come to Cardiff, October?
We've got one on October.
Oh, same day?
Yeah, that's because we arranged one on the same day. Because we did have it on the 15th of October, but we noticed you guys had one, and then Scotland got one, so we moved it, so it went all to the first.
Yeah, Scotland's got one as well,
Yeah.
It's going to be a massive...
Otherwise, I would have come up.
Oh, the next one then?
Yeah, definitely.
Right. Go at the front with your big Cornish flag.
Yeah, definitely.
Your kilt on us, that would be great. Yeah, you done a good job here, mate.
Yeah, well
Well
done,
done.
Thank you, mate.
Great job. Great.
Cheers, Ryan. Throat is going down.
Yeah.
Ready for beer.
Am I allowed with Owen's mum and Owen to go to the spot to get drinks?
Yeah, that's fine. Do you want some money?
We're having speeches now because people start wandering on.
Okay.
Right, everyone, we are just going to gather now for a minute, just gather ourselves for a couple of seconds, and then we're going to have some speeches here. We know we've asked a lot of you to walk along with us today, and we know it's very hot. So have a little drink, gather yourself for a minute, and then we're going to have a few speakers, and then hopefully after the speakers, we'll go along and have a couple of beers somewhere.
Having a temporary break. Join us again in a second.
Right on.
All right, mate.
Yeah, beat
train drain to London, Manchester, wherever, Brussels, a lack of economic traction or leverage, environmental protection issues, and also particularly important tied in with that, welfare and future generation concerns, because it's about sustainable communities, both structurally, physically, and from a social point of view. Well, I would say that lack of control over those affairs means having sovereignty for the people of Kernow, or Wales as the case may be. It can only be then if you've got that sovereignty that you can have genuine self-determination. And I'm not saying self-determination means independence, it can do, but there are a range of other options. We've been calling for an assembly today. It can be federalism at one level, it can be devolution along current lines as elsewhere in the UK. All those options and more might be the realisation of a choice, a genuine exercise in self-determination. What I mean by a genuine exercise is that those involved in making the choice, i.e. you, have the means to be informed about issues and options. You have the power, but it requires, power is one thing. To have rights, you need to be able to exercise them properly. So it's about full information, it's about empowerment, and it's about information from a variety of sources and perspectives to inform honest discussion about issues and options. So for example, I'll use the independence option. If people mention independence, whether it's Scotland, Wales, Kernow, there is automatically an argument that goes up. It's like a blank, it's like a wall. You can't have it, it's not practicable, it won't happen, it won't work. Well, if that conclusion is as a result of a considered argument, that's fine. But you need to have that considered argument. And that's why you need genuine discussion, and you need to be informed. The argument doesn't happen. Now, I'm not suggesting that you would want independence necessarily, but you will be shouting for an assembly today. But there needs to be a discussion, there needs to be empowerment, so that you can have that proper discussion and it can be informed. So what I would say is that if the Cornish people had the sovereignty, it would allow them to have the direct control over the issues that they face, and give them the ability to take necessary action to realise whatever it is that they want, but certainly to have power over their own issues. Devolution in Wales has allowed that to an extent. So health, social services, planning and housing are devolved, but critically policing and justice is not, and they are in Scotland and in Northern Ireland. So even if you have devolution, you've got to have the proper powers that are devolved for the thing to work properly. So there is work in hand in Wales as far as devolution is concerned, let alone independence. But let's go back to Kernow, because that's why we're here today. I see Kernow as a constituent nation of the UK, along with Wales, England, Northern Ireland and Scotland. Unfortunately, my endorsement is insufficient. We need the endorsement of the UK state. If the UK did recognise that, it would establish, I think, you on a more traction would be there. You would have a far better ability to argue your ability for that outcome that you seek. But Cornwall is incorporated into the UK state, or the English state as it then was. Yet Wales has managed to establish its own devolution to an extent. So I would argue establishing recognition from the UK state that Kernow is a Scotland being a UK constituent nation by the UK state materially increases its bargaining leverage. Importantly, however, of course, it does not mean you cannot do anything. You cannot argue for other things while you wait for that recognition through the democratic means and structures available to you. You can still pursue action and challenges you face, like we're doing today. Those issues relating to housing, economic and social opportunity planning, environmental protection, etc. And you can still build further to develop that Cornish civil society. And you're doing that today. But what I'm saying is if that effort is twinned with a fight for recognition of Kernow as a constituent nation of the UK, it helps provide focus, momentum and direction in that parallel effort. That's all I've got to say. Muraz, diolch, thank you.
I say an absolute huge thank you to Hugh, who's travelled all the way here just for today. He's on his way up north now, but he's come all the way from Wales, so thank you, Hugh.
Yay!
That's commitment, that is.
I'd like to start off by saying that Hatchester, Niagara, Hyder, Hwydini, Calernas Pigonen, Rasbozona, in Cres Sita a Kernow, Truro. A Wols o Cresger the Drodevi. A Cerdd Ganani Agan Pendero, a Gembra. In Insis in Westminster Podran. In Insis in Wed and Alban. Ni a Gerd Wurban. Good afternoon. And welcome to you all. Thank you everyone for being here in the centre of Cornwall City, Truro, after washing around her. Walking with us are our Welsh cousins in solidarity against corrupt Westminster, in union, also with Scotland, we walk together. Pat, are you here, my darling Pat Rabbit? From birth.
Yay!
Hello.
Hello.
All right, a reservoir. A gathering, Dwerin, yeah. I went there and I couldn't believe there were like 2,000 people there. I didn't understand a word of what they said. They were all very welcoming. But the problems that I saw there, see exactly what was happening here. And I thought, why haven't we got something going on? Why haven't we got our own campaign to help ourselves? And that campaign sits within us needing a Cornish Assembly. If we had a Cornish Assembly, we would be able to determine how we respond to this housing crisis. Because currently we're just waiting for Westminster to decide, to find out how many Cornish properties are currently registered as holiday lets. Because they don't actually know that. There's no central register. We don't even have the information to respond to the crisis. They're not interested. The money that's created in Cornwall needs to stay in Cornwall. If we had taxation that was ring-fenced for Cornwall, that was created in Cornwall, we could respond adequately for this. We could respond exactly the same way that the Welsh are. We waited for months for them to decide that they were going to double the council tax. For people that have second homes, that means nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's vital that we are able to determine our future and prevent this crisis from becoming any worse. I'm not going to pretend to know what would happen if we got the powers for a Cornish Assembly, but I do know that it will be better than the current situation.
Hear, hear.
So, thanks thanks very much for coming back, because I was the only Cornish person that went to Wales last year. But thank you so much for coming to support us here. Diolch!
Big round of applause for Councillor, please. Next up we have Loveday Jenkins.
Yay! Good old Loveday.
Whereas,
Hurrah!
Dabos o mae'n sita Kernow, the Lefero and Gwirioneth Edin and Bees. It's really important to be here in the centre of Truro to tell the truth against the world, or the truth to the world, because we don't get heard very much. Just over 70 years ago last year, a small group of activists sat in a temperance hotel in Redroof and decided to form Mebion Kernow. And they formed Mebion Kernow, it was because they saw that their way of life and the way of life in Cornwall was being destroyed by all sorts of outside influences, including excess immigration into Cornwall from other areas, and the loss of the Cornish identity and culture. But that small band of activists rapidly realised that they needed a political message to be able to actually say anything, to speak truth to power. So Mebion Kernow rapidly decided they needed to start standing for elections. Now you might say, well, what's changed? Well, not a lot has changed in the political and governance side, except we've been saying the message since the 1970s, Assemblies for Scotland and Wales, why not Cornwall? And we need to keep repeating that message. One of the things that has changed though is a lot of the young people today are aware of their Cornish identity and are aware of their Cornish heritage and aware that Cornwall is somewhere special to be. We need to actually use that now to demand the power changes that ensure that our young people and future generations will be able to live in Cornwall and will be able to identify as Cornish in Cornwall and will be able to be proud of our Cornish nation. Now, you might say, well, what's a Cornish nation? As our Welsh speaker has said, unless we have the recognition that Cornwall exists as an entity other than an English county, we have struggled to actually take things forward. We need that recognition, and that recognition has moved steps forward. Our language is now recognised as a constituent language of Europe. Our people are now recognised as an indigenous group within the British Isles. Next, we need to recognise our space, our land. My Bardic name is Mirchantir, daughter of the land. This is our land. This is the land of everyone who belongs to it and who wishes to be part of it. And we need to ensure that our children and our grandchildren can also claim this as their land. We've seen so many challenges to that, and particularly in the last few years. In the 70s, people were saying, well, you know, we can't stay in Cornwall, there's nothing in Cornwall, need to move away, need to actually take a job anywhere else. Even so in the 60s. In the 80s and 90s, people started realising that actually, maybe we could actually build lives in Cornwall. And some of the young people started coming back. Now we're seeing the same message again. If you're a young person, you can't get a house, you can't get wages that will enable you to buy a house, you need to move away from Cornwall. Now I'm saying we need to fight against that. That is our primary message that needs to be out there. Our young people have a right to stay in Cornwall and a right to build their lives and to be Cornish in Cornwall. The importance of being Cornish in Cornwall is something that we should not deny to anyone. So I'd ask you all to think what you can do in order to ensure that our young people have a future in Cornwall. Whether it's campaigning with first not second homes to ensure that we have houses available for people whether it's actually campaigning to get a fair share of funding from central government, which we don't get at the moment. The amount of money going into education in Cornwall is minimal compared with what they get in London or even in other parts of England. So whether you're campaigning for houses, whether you're campaigning for education, whether you're campaigning to ensure we have food security, that we have the ability to grow our own food in Cornwall, that not all the land is concreted over and turned into unproductive land. We have the capacity in Cornwall to do a lot more, not just for the people of Cornwall, but for the people of the whole of the Isles of Britain. We have lithium, we have tin, we have a lot of raw materials. What's happened in the past with those is that the raw materials have been dug out in Cornwall and the profit has gone somewhere else. We need to ensure that profit is kept in Cornwall for the people of Cornwall. If you've got a tourist industry, that tourist industry needs to pay the real cost to Cornwall. If you've got a developer, that developer needs to ensure that those houses are available and affordable for the people of Cornwall. We have a critical incident declared in our health service in Cornwall again. We had one declared after Christmas, we've got another one now. It's not going to get any better. We need to be ensuring that those people who work in the health service and in the social care service are getting a fair wage that reflects the importance of the work they do. And therefore we need the central government to fund that and to ensure that people have a fair wage. There's so many things that you can do, not saying you should do all of them. I'm only 33 really, I'm just absolutely knackered. But everyone can do something. And I would say to everyone here today, just one little thing could make that difference. So please think what you can do, and let's stand up for Cornwall, stand up for the people of Cornwall, and stand up for our rights. Marath.
Yay! Thank you so much, Loveday. We now have Mel Sheridan. She's going to now say a few words here.
Mel Sheridan, and I have a story about the failings of Cornwall Council, South West Water and George Eustace. I have been robbed of 13 solid years of my life. I wake up every day in my once beautiful home that had value, with headphones on at night so I don't have to hear the running watercourse under my property. I have to wear a mouth guard to stop my teeth from grinding. In 2002 I bought my property, had the surveys, mining searches, radon searches, everything fine. Everything's going really well. I started my college course in 2003 and spent 7 years studying hard. In 2006 I noticed the road was sinking outside my property, so I phoned the council, who passed the buck to the water board, who passed the buck to the council. Nothing was wrong with my house at that time. In January 2009, Operation Clean Sweep, which I call Operation Mash Up. They pipe burst the wrong networks, ploughed through the east culvert outside my property, and my house started falling down. The open-ended sewers, which were in the road, causing the road to sink since 2006, are not on any maps. Okay? Eventually, after 3 years, I hammered my insurance company to pay for the house to be underpinned. According to the council, they believed it was a culvert under my house, so therefore I wasn't insured. So I had to give up my job that I had to study for 7 years for, to fight to find out what was causing my home to fall down. My son didn't go up to his bedroom for 3 solid years because the house was moving. In 2012 it was underpinned. In 2009 Cornwall Council came out and did a trial hole in their road and found running water. They said they'd come back the following day with a suction pump to see where that water was coming from. They chipped off for 3 solid years and left my house to continue falling down. When I realised this pipe that they'd broken in the road and that pipe burst was traced under my building, I went to see George Eustace. The insurance company advised me that I should go to my local MP and ask him to put pressure on South West Water to adopt this unmapped, unmaintained, historic water infrastructure in Hale. He's done nothing but 10 solid years. I've been groomed by South West Water to be on suicide watch. They came round and all they wanted to do was find out how they could pin it on the council. I've had the council, as Loveday was back me up, have been promising me that they're going to resolve it. And so for me, I had 2 choices. I could put the house on the market initially in 2013 and not go back for the fight about this running infrastructure and sell my turkey onto some unsuspecting buyer, which I morally refuse to do. Or, as the council advised, I can block it up with concrete. It's a running watercourse. It would cause damage to my neighbours' properties. So here I am, 13 years on, lost my art career, lost my teaching career. I was diagnosed with COPD in the middle of my house falling down. All the doctors have written to George Eustace. Everybody's written to George Eustace. Everybody's gone to see George Eustace. He hasn't even grasped the story yet. This is a problem for Hale. You cannot have a running ancient water infrastructure running under people's houses and roads that nobody owns. George has dumped it on Hale. He's basically saying that these homeowners are responsible for these networks. How can they be? They don't even know they exist. So when their houses start sinking into the ground, they're literally going to go through the same hell I've gone through. George Eustace needs to be arrested. I'm sorry, that man does not care about his constituents.
Hear, hear.
Does not care. He's never even been to my building. He's never even come to my property. So as far as I'm concerned, South West Water are a mafia. They are owned by France, Pennon. They've turned round and said to Pennon, they are not responsible for any subsidence or collapsing of roads because it's Cornwall Council's fault for not giving them the maps of the infrastructure. And this is where we're at. So the same thing about the second homes, we cannot have any more development in Hale until these infrastructures are traced at sources and they are moved away from the properties. This is untreated water, allegedly, but as Loveday will say, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's got chlorine in it. I've got like 0.2 meg chlorine in my house. My next door neighbour's got 0.13. That doesn't make sense. They don't know where anything is. They're pitching and patching. We're talking about John Harvey. We're talking about infrastructure was laid in 1800s. There has been no Operation Clean Sweep in Hale. There has been no flood alleviation properly done in Hale, because if there was, they would have known these networks were there. There's a massive, massive cover-up, and George is involved in this cover-up. I'm sorry, he is. You cannot tell me the amount of people that have been to write to him. The council basically said to him, you need to adopt this infrastructure, you need to get South West Water to adopt this under the Water Act to save Hale, and he's done nothing. So I would suggest that everybody stop moaning about the sewage being discharged into the sea. Start withholding your sewage charges, because you are complicit. By paying these companies, you're allowing them to carry on doing what they do. They don't care about you moaning, they only care about money. You withhold your sewage charges until South West Water behaves like a professional company. And I suggest in Hale that people should withhold their council taxes until Cornwall Council treat people with a duty of care. Because Loveday was I've been lied to, I've been groomed. I'm still paying back solicitors from 7 years ago. There's nothing more I can do. So I've got 4 more years in my house, and then I'm declared bankrupt and I'm homeless.
Brilliant, thank you so much, Mel.
Thank you, Mel. What a good story, that one.
Alright, our last speaker today is Mark Ciuccone.
Yay!
Our own Mark.
Jefta!
It's great to see so many of you here standing up for a better future for Kernow. I feel somewhat honoured and somewhat humbled to speak to you today, as it's made me reflect on my 42 years as a trade union activist in Kernow. How the world has changed in those 42 years, especially for workers. I always thought being a worker and a trade union activist in the years of Thatcher would have been the most challenging. But how I was wrong. The last 12 years have been far worse. 12 years of cruel two-week rule inflicting pain for the many while bettering the beds for the few. We now have a record number of billionaires in Britain, with a record number of food bank users. I was on a call where I was horrified to discover that there are actually more food banks in the UK than branches of McDonald's. Says it all, doesn't it? Dividends have almost doubled the decade before the pandemic, but the average real wages are well below the pre-financial crash levels. Households are now facing the sharpest fall in living standards since the 1950s. The cost of living is even outstripping the minimum wage increases. This is not a coincidence. This is how our rigged economy works. The super rich taking more and more, leaving everyone with less and less. Kaufman's. Now for the party that prides itself on the economy, the Tories. They have a shocking record of running it. The UK economy is the slowest growing in the G7. It has the greatest level of regional inequality in the G7. We all know that. We live in those regions with poor economy. Food banks now do the job of government, providing for families that are more often than not in work. Families already under considerable financial strain are facing the prospect of a cost of living tsunami as prices of everyday groceries rise by at least 50%. Let's go to the root cause of all this. A right-wing government held captive by Brexiteers. 12 years of austerity, an economy managed for the benefit of the rich and the marginalisation of the people of Cornwall. Cornwall is one of the most disadvantaged regions in the UK, with high rates of poverty, inequality and insecure work. It also has been hit hard by the COVID pandemic, with the lockdown exposing the Dutch's over-reliance on the visitor economy. We can only come to the conclusion that in its current form, our economic system perpetuates wealth inequality by design. Economic gains are concentrated among the very small proportion of the population, and political choices have been made to avoid redistributing these gains more equitably. People are increasingly realising there is a deep structural imbalance in power and wealth. It permeates the world of work and right across the economy. It is rigged against working people. It is driving the inequalities that exist in the Cornish and UK-sized society today. In the last 12 years of Tory rule, we've seen the longest squeeze in wages since the Napoleonic War, even before Tony was around. Enough is enough. We need a fair deal for workers. We need a decent wage increase for workers. Yet the Westminster government urges us to accept wage restraint. It's easy for them. They tend to be in the top 1% of earners. It's easy for Andrew Bailey, the Bank of England governor, to say when he's on £500 million a year is easy for our MPs to say, as their pay's gone up from 65,000 in 2010 to 84,000 this year. Ministers get more than that. And they also get 3 months' pay when they resign a day later. It's important for us because we need to understand the root crisis in the UK and Cornwall. It's not just wages that are driving up inflation. If you're getting a less than a 10% pay increase today, you're actually getting a pay cut. And many workers have not had a pay increase for many years. There's no way is it keeping up with their cost of living. The reason for inflation at the moment is not because of wages, it's because of corporate profit. A number of recent economic reports highlight that at least 60% of the reasons for inflation in the UK are caused by company profits. The top 350 companies in the UK, do you know how much their profits have risen since the beginning of the pandemic? No, it's not 10%, it's not 20%, it's not 50%, it's 73%. What's actually happening is that people's wages are being squeezed by profits. Because when you get higher profit margins, people's wages get squeezed instead. If you want to tackle inflation in the UK, what you've got to do is get tax those profits. I ask you all, what more do we have to go through in order to stand up for ourselves? We get rubbish statutory sick pay, amongst the lowest in the Western world. We have less worker rights than most European countries. What does it take? How many times do we have to get kicked in the face in this country to accept their lot in life? To accept a country where most people are in poverty and they're actually in work? When are we going to get up off our knees and fight back? Taking control of our lives and fighting for autonomy or independence for Kernow. To fight back against these inequalities, we need better governance, fairer governance, a governance that represents us, the people of Cornwall. We need a Cornwall that has the power to set its own economic policies, like a progressive tax system, which sets higher tax on wealth so that ordinary families in Cornwall and low-paid workers in Cornwall are not saddled with a disproportionate financial burden. We need decent wages for the workers of Cornwall, wages which value and recognise their efforts appropriately. We need a Cornwall with the power to set decent levels of sick pay and workers' rights. What do we have? We have a Westminster government that creates endless laws, paying lip service to a manufactured culture war. It seems to be things like protecting freedom of speech, and yet the Tories are the ones that have banned schools in Kernow in England from using resources that are not overtly pro-capitalist. They are cracking down on their freedom to protest. Most terrifyingly, all governments, is that this government actually wants to get rid of the Human Rights Act. And it begs the question, who do they think the rights have gone too far? How scary is it to sit at home and wonder if it's you? Is it your rights that are up for grabs? This is just an Eton, educated Westminster elites, supported by their lackeys in Liz Kernow, drunk on the memory of a British Empire that no longer exists. We see the concentration of power whilst avoiding the scrutiny and responsibility that comes with that power. And haven't we seen that this year? It arises under the guise of respectability and pride that will then be refused to anyone who is deemed different. Normalisation of human cruelty. But the things we do in the name of economic growth, the warning signs, there for everyone to see, whether they admit it or not. I have to say, finishing off, I am genuinely astonished that there's anyone left in Cornwall or Wales who believes Westminster rule serves our best interests. That's why we need autonomy or independence for Cornwall, and we need it now. Kernow, please, Vicar!
Brilliant, thank you very much, Mark. That comes to the end of our speeches, but that doesn't mean it stops here. We all have a responsibility now to go away from here and carry on this conversation in our communities and to keep this going. I'd just like to thank the organisations that have come today, and the representatives of it from MK, AUOB Kernow, personal secretary staff Avid and friends, and most of all, our brothers from Yes Cymru. We thank you so much. Let's keep this going. Kernow decision. Let's have one more. Oggy, oggy, oggy!
Oi! Oi!
Oggy!
Oi!
Oggy!
Oi!
Oggy, oggy, oggy!
Oi! Oi!
Kernow this second!
Yay!
One and all. One and hardball.